Hello and welcome back to everyone on the Football Zone and to a weekend review, reviewing all the Premier League action from this week and starting off with a massive win for Burnley as they defeated Sheffield United 5-0 in the Premier League. Jay Rodriguez opened the scoring in the first minute. In the second minute, in the 29th minute, it was 2-0 before Ollie McBurney was sent off in the stroke of half time. And then, Burnley finished it off in the second half with relative ease. A massive win for Burnley. It feels like the kind of result that could get their season back on track. But for Sheffield United, pressure really going on Hickey now. But moving on then to Brentford 3, Luton 1. More pace scoring for Brentford in the 50th minute before Ben Mee made it 2 a few minutes later, and Baptiste later on made it 3-1 after Brown scored a goal for Luton to give them some hope for a bit. But Brentford absolutely deserved this win. They were dominant here, totally the better side, and really starting to pick up momentum now after a bit of a tough start to the season. So they'll be pleased with that. But for Luton, disappointing result, I think that has to be said. Just kind of really didn't show up for this one in all honesty. But moving on into Arsenal as they defeated Wolves 2-1 at the Emirates. Arsenal coming into this one with a quick start. Within the 6th minute it was Saka scoring, and the 13th minute it was Odegaard scoring. You thought it would be easy from now on in, but in the 86th minute Cunha gave Wolves some hope. But in the end, Arsenal just about held on. In the end, it should have been more comfortable for Arsenal, but it wasn't. Maybe against better teams, that's something they can be punished for, not just kind of not putting the game to bed. So they'll be fortunate that it didn't happen here. But moving on into Forest as they take on Everton at the City ground, and it finished 1-0 to Everton. It was Dwight McNeil in the 67th minute. A lovely goal. Some controversies here. Should there have been a few penalties? Should there not? Etc. etc. But I think Everton and Forest, they were quite evenly matched. But for Everton, it's a big win. Their away form and their momentum keeps growing. But for Forest, big, really disappointing result, and kind of one that you feel could put some pressure onto Steve Cooper. For Forest, disappointing. Everton, massive win. But moving on into Newcastle as they defeated Manchester United 1-0, and it was 55th minute Anthony Gordon who got the goal. To be honest, I'm surprised the goal didn't come earlier, and I'm surprised it wasn't a more dominant scoreline, because Newcastle were absolutely best team here. Really outplayed Manchester United in all honesty. I think the big result for Newcastle, but for Manchester United, just when things kind of seems to be on the up in the league, they put in a performance like this. Let's face it, no hiding from it, it was a stinker. Moving on into West Ham 1, Palace 1 at the London Stadium. It was Kudus in the 13th minute who gave West Ham the lead before Edouard in the 53rd minute made it 1-1. West Ham, I think, kind of will feel disappointed they didn't get the win here. There wasn't too much to choose between two sides, but at home, etc., etc., I thought they probably had slightly more of the game. Will be disappointed that they couldn't pick up the win. For Palace, a big result for them. I think, away from home, they'll definitely take that. West Ham is a very tough place to go. But moving on into a crazy game at Anfield, where it finished Liverpool 4, Fulham 3. It was Leno with an own goal early on before Harry Wilson levels things up against his old club. McAllister then made it 2-1, but on the stroke of half-time, Teddy made it 2-2. Bobby Reed gave Fulham the lead late on before Endo and Trent made it 4-3 to Liverpool. Liverpool in the end hanging on, a massive win, missed the result for them, a crazy game, kind of just shows the way they've improved to win that game. I don't think we won that last season. Fulham, they'll be gutted after such a big effort. But moving on into Chelsea 3, Brighton 2 at Stamford Bridge, and it was a fast start from Chelsea. Fernandes and Colwill early on making it 2-0 before Brighton pulled one back. Conor Gallagher was then sent off on the stroke of half time, but Fernandes made it 3-1. João Pedro in the 92nd minute made it 3-2. In the end, Brighton just couldn't hang on, couldn't get a point, I think they'll be really disappointed. Playing against 10 men for most of the game, they'll be really disappointed with that. But for Chelsea, a massive win, and sort of one that could gain them momentum. But moving on into Bournemouth 2, Villa 2 at the Vitality. Semenyo in the 10th minute made it 1-0 before Leon Bailey in the 20th minute made it 1-1. Solanke made it 2-1 in the 52nd minute, and Ollie Watkins in the 90th minute made it 2-2. I thought big win, big point here for Bournemouth. In the end, they'll be gutted not to win it, but against the Villa side and how good they've been this season, has to be seen as a positive step for me, undoubtedly. But for moving on into the last game, Man City 3, Tottenham 3, and referee Simon Hooper, maybe not his greatest performance, helping out Spurs a bit, I think it's fair to say, but a really fun game here. Son gave Spurs the early lead before an own goal from him made it 1-1. Foden then made it 2-1 before Lo Celso made it 2-2. Grealish in the 81st minute made it 3-2 before Kulusevski later on made it 3-3. And City can have some complaints, and they'll be wondering how they didn't win this one. But for Spurs, that's a good point, and hopefully he can kind of get their momentum back they lost over the last few races. But anyway, guys, that's it really. Thanks for watching. Share, subscribe, and subscribe for daily football news. Subscribe to the channel, greatly appreciated. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.